We are here now with the Legal Answer, a segment brought to you twice a month here on Studio 10 from the Sinas law firm and personal injury attorneys Steve Sinas and Katie Tucker. We have questions coming from you, the public, and they will provide the legal answer. So joining us this week, of course, is Steven Sinas. How are you this afternoon?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, because today's question deals with motor vehicle crashes, but more specifically, Steven, how do crashes with commercial vehicles, like a semi-truck, how do those differ from a crash with another passenger vehicle?
All right. So as the most basic point and observation, these commercial vehicles tend to be a lot larger than your typical car, right?
Of course.
So when you're in a crash with a commercial vehicle, you tend to get more injured or more severely injured. So the stakes are higher because your injuries are more severe and you need to protect your rights. And also, when it comes to the law, there's a lot of similar ways in which the law applies to a motor vehicle crash and a crash with a commercial vehicle, but there are some key differences when it comes down to determining liability and how these cases are litigated.
Yeah, and speaking of, how does liability and those responsible for the crash, how does that differ in these types of situations, again, when you're involving commercial vehicles?
Yeah, so first of all, the Michigan no-fault insurance law applies to any type of crash involving a motor vehicle, whether it's a car or a semi-truck. So when you're dealing with these types of cases, either way, the Michigan no-fault law applies.
Right.
But when you have a commercial vehicle, you also have something known as the Federal Motor Carrier Regulations, which the state of Michigan has adopted. And that sets forth a number of standards and rules that truck drivers have to follow. And that creates whole different types of theories of liability and ways in which to try to work up the case against the trucking company about how they failed to keep drivers safe on the road, with how they maybe train their drivers, the ways in which they operated the trucking company in terms of how many hours the truck driver was on the road. The truck driver has various responsibilities under these regulations to operate the truck in certain ways in certain situations. So that's where these cases become a lot more complex and different than your typical car crash case. Yeah,
and that's important to know that there are laws in place for both these different types of crashes already. Well, also, Stephen, why is it important, of course, to contact an attorney right away, especially when you are dealing with these type of crashes?
Well, as I said early on, the stakes are high in these cases typically because people have been severely injured. And the trucking company wants to protect its interests when that happens. So they typically dispatch their own investigators, and they have their own private group of people who are working up their defense. So it's more important in these situations to act quickly, so you protect your rights, so you get your investigation done, so that you understand everything that happened. Because, you know, if you're trying to pursue big damages from a trucking company, you better make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, because they're going to try to take all those out one by one with the information they get and try to use in your case.
Yeah, and just like you said, acting quickly, I think, is the biggest key here when you are dealing with a crash like this. So thank you so much for kind of breaking that down for us, Stephen. And if you guys at home have more questions like this, look at the information right here at the bottom of your screen. You guys can contact Sinas and they can answer more of your questions with the legal answer. Thank you.
Thank you.